Today, we are so lucky to have an Edmonton mayoral candidate who's very promising and very sincere in efforts to lead this great city. Let me introduce to you Engineer Malik Chukwudi, who is a city engineer currently working, an active engineer currently working in the city roadworks department. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
Oh, not too bad.
Yeah.
So, Malik, tell me something. You've been with the city for how many years now?
For a long time. It's over maybe 10.
Over 10 years. So, what made you think of jumping into the mayoral race?
The biggest problem that came to mind is the bureaucracy, the bureaucratic process. We have too many supervisors and engineers sitting in the office, and we don't have boots on the ground. And some of them do not have the qualification of what it takes to actually do the job. So they got promoted because they know somebody. They got promoted because they're friends with someone, and not in the ability to do the job. So that also creates such a very divisive, such toxic environment in the city. Because if someone has been there for 18 years and he's waiting for an opportunity to come, for him to move up, and that opportunity didn't come, and some guy just got, been with the city for 3 years, and he got promoted to be his boss. And he was actually training him when he came in. You see, it will create resentment and create a very toxic environment to work. Secondly is the spending. We're spending, we spend money on things that we don't need and spend less money on things that we need, which means that those who are in position of authority to actually make these decisions do not know what exactly we need for the city.
So Malik, if I may interrupt you, when you say things you don't need, can you elaborate?
We have equipment and materials within the city that we don't need. Like we have a 6th grader sitting in the shop. We have F-150 and Dodge trucks that were leased to us, sitting in the yard. It looks like a new car dealership, a new truck dealership. And who's driving those trucks? I mean, for all the years I worked there, maybe the supervisor, the shift foreman. Other than that, there's nobody else that drives those trucks that are parked there like it's a brand new car dealership. And also, in training, we need to invest more in training people. That's the only way we can be efficient in what we do, So we should spend more money in training and more money in upgrading our equipments, not to buy a bunch of equipment and leave them there. And also, we need to look into ways that we could cut costs. And either we use science and technology, ingenuity, or to source things out. We can send people overseas. I've gone to Germany. I worked in roadways and maintenance. I've seen that the technology that they use in building roads in Germany is more efficient. And I wish we can, have people sent over there for the training. And then they could come back here and will show us a better and more efficient ways to build roads, sidewalk, and most of our infrastructure, and will save money.
Malik, I believe, talking about roadworks, one of the biggest problems we have is this slow snow removal that we're experiencing.
Yes.
With the city,
yes.
As well as we're seeing a lot of grass not being cut. Why is this happening right now?
Well, it's the same problem where you have people that are not qualified, and the ones that are qualified do not train people properly. And they have to prioritize work. You have to have a map of a particular area, and you have to delegate work. and encourage people to actually go there and do the job and actually drive around and supervise those areas. And the city is very passive and in doing city work. If you drive around the city, there's a lot of grasses ain't cut. The sidewalks are broken, the concrete is broken. It's very hard for people with disability on wheelchair to actually use it, or someone who's blind. And because now you're fighting with guys riding on a bike, trying to share the sidewalk with you, or women pushing their kids on a stroller. And we have not been able to be creative. We have not been able to be, try to find a word to use, not to upset anybody, but we haven't found ways to, yeah,
Get a grip of things.
get a grip of things. Yeah, to put it lightly. Yeah.
So, and in my discussions with the city, there's a lot of problems going on.
Yes.
With building the LRT.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about why the LRT is not a great idea as of this time?
It was a flawed idea from the beginning, and it started with Stephen Mandel. And most of the guys in the city council has no clue as to what they were asked to vote on. And I'm not sure if there's, I've spoke to quite a few people on this issue. They say there were committee, there's a group that came together, had a discussion, and actually explained some of these issues to them. But one thing you gotta realize that every city is different, whether it's Munich, Germany, whether it's London, England, whether it's, any city is different. What we would have done is to find engineers and architects that would look at the landscape of Edmonton. That's number two. Number three is to think about the finance, where we're going to get the money from. We're going to tax people here to death. We don't have the population. Edmonton is just barely over 1 million people here. So we don't have the population that require building an LRT. It's such a small city, actually. If you could get from one place to the other, without traffic, within 15-20 minutes. You could go from south side to the north side, or from east to west. So what is the idea of the LRT? I just don't understand. But if the LRT is to connect towns within Edmonton, like Mundare, Sherwood Park, go to Calgary, connecting all the towns, it might be an idea that I will encourage to eliminate having so many vehicles on the highway. But within the city, my God, you could bike around Edmonton. So what is the idea of the LRT? We do not have the population of 4.5 million, maybe 6 million or 7 million like the city of London. Yeah, we might have enough millionaires and billionaires to be able to tax and pay for this, and have working people that actually could pay for the LRT. And it is not supposed to go just on the road, on the surface, on the ground. It shouldn't. It's either go underneath or it goes above. And underneath, they said it's going to cost a lot of money. Then we have to wait until we have the resources to do it. Or we could bring foreign investors, like in a Shark Tank, you come with an idea, you go in front of billionaires, venture capitalists, and go in front of angel investors and says, if you help us build this in the city, this is the revenue that's going to bring. And they said, okay, well, how much do you need? I need $20 billion, $30 billion. Okay, well, based on the numbers on the ground, based on population, based on skilled workers, because there's a lot of things you have to present to these people for them to invest their billions of dollars in this project, because they could lose that money. So you have to have skilled workers, which we don't have here, create jobs, which the government here, the city government, led by Iverson, has been stifling businesses. It's hard for them to pay their rent. It's hard for them to pay their workers. It's a problem that we have. The Iverson has no business acumen at all, zero. And I could say that loud and clear. And he could, we could have that conversation if he wants. Because I don't think he has ever traveled around the world or have actually lead a business or started a business to have an idea how a city works. So you present this to investors and said, okay, they say, well, in the next 30 years, we will collect 20% of revenues from this LRT train station. And like you see in Shark Tank, they said, okay, well, 10%, I'll get that revenue until I accumulate and get my money back. But where is he going to find these people? The mayor of London, England did that. He went to Saudi Arabia, United States, and acquired more than 260 billion pounds to build a city and put people back to work. But he doesn't know that. He doesn't travel overseas. If he travels, only God knows where he goes. But he has no business acumen and ideas to move this city forward, and that's a problem. And the city this size cannot handle a project that big. And secondly, the brain box which they brought to power the train is the wrong one, and it would not work. If it's minus 30, minus 40, minus 50, they have to return it. It takes 6 months to build one. So it just started, you know, this project started in the wrong foot. It just started in the wrong way, and the houses where this LRT had passed, the property value of those houses has gone down. And I have a friend of mine that lives on the by Middle Arc Road, just off 87 Avenue, just close to Mr. Cordier Hospital. He says, I'm going to sell my home and move away because this is going to bring crime, it's going to bring homeless people around this area. And I don't want it. And I have checked, it will reduce my property tax. So there was not much thinking that went into this process. And it's not going to help the city. It's going to create a problem. It went on the surface. So if there's any emergency and any electrical or technology problem, failure that we have, now this is a train. You got to find ways to move that train forward or backwards for traffic to continue to flow. And people might sit there for well over 3, 4, 5, 6 hours before that problem is solved. So it's risky, and it's 1850 technology. The fastest bullet train was built in Japan in 1968.
So Malik, you know, talking about all this LRT stuff, talking about inexperience and whatnot, can you share, have you been to Hong Kong? Have you been to
Yes, I've been to Japan, I've been to Hong Kong. They have the best LRT transportation on the planet Earth. And if I were to send a contingent to study any LRT in the world, I have to send them to China and Hong Kong and Japan. Because 90% of people that live there use the LRT. And you have to take a study and try to figure out. But this is one of the most expensive cities on the planet. And they have way more billionaires than we have here. And they use the LRT over there. Everyone is just going about their business. You know, no one is you know, we talk about pollution, we're talking about environment. They are doing the job over there, and we, the ones that are supposed to champion it, is not doing it. One way is to reduce that is the LRT. So if I have my opportunity, I'll send a contingent to study where the LRT there actually incentivize the government, not the other way around. If the train stopped, the LRT train in Hong Kong stopped for 1 minute, it will cost the government of Hong Kong $1 million.
So let's put this in perspective. So you're not really against LRT?
No, I'm not against LRT. It's just this idea is wrong. Yeah.
So Malik, one of the biggest things that we've seen in the city of Edmonton is that you're working in a department on roadworks, and there's about 200 employees. And Edmonton consists of a lot of the Asian community.
Yes, 9.5%. After the white population, Asians are the second largest population.
The second largest population. Being the second largest population, why is the roadworks department, you don't see any Asians in the roadworks department? What do you think is the problem with this?
it's sad because I don't know, it's disheartening to say the least, where the Asian community has contributed so much to Edmonton. They have contributed so much to Alberta. You know, when settlers came here, the second population that isn't Caucasian to come here were Asians who were brought from Asia to come and work on the railroads. So they've been here longer than most of us have been here. And yet, after 150 years, it's hard to find Asians being employed and put in government in the highest offices of the land. It has to do with hiring. When whosoever is hiring is not doing his job. Now, someone like me, I've been asked by someone on my Facebook account. I said, what are you going to do about the imbalance of race?
Yes. Well, because the city should be inclusive.
Inclusive.
Right? Yes.
Iverson, being a liberal mayor, the Liberal Party, liberal people running around talking about inclusivity, LGBTQ community, and Black Lives Matter, and all that stuff. It's on theory, it's on paper. They don't do it because I live this life. I work with the city. I've never worked with an Asian person. There's no Asian person that I've worked at roadways and maintenance. Nobody. If anyone knows, I'll give them my number. They could call me and say, hey, I've seen one. But how long has the city existed? Why would there be one Asian that works there? Somebody might say, well, maybe they don't want to work there. Well, where did you collect that concept? Where did you collect that data that Asians don't want to work roadways maintenance? What are we actually doing there? So I don't really want to put the city of Edmonton in a bad light. It's a good place to work. The salaries are good. The pay structure is good. It's just the management is bad. The management they have no experience. They have no plans for inclusivity. And then they made white people to take a racist test on racism. And a friend of mine, Dave, took that test and he failed. Because the test will ask you things like, do you have a black friend? Do you go to school with a black guy? Will you invite a black guy to a community party or whatever? And if you answer no to 3 of those questions, that test considers you a racist or says you have to do better. So that's a reverse racism. Why would you make someone, a white person, to take a test on how do you cannot tell what's in someone's heart? Someone could be a racist and not show it. I could be a racist and not show it. So test is not going to solve that problem. It's education, exposure, and learning, and inclusivity. And where if someone who is Asian has to work with me, where some guys that I work with in the Middle East didn't quite like the Filipinos that I employed when I was over there as the country manager for the 3rd largest drilling oil and gas drilling company. But after a short while, these guys, they're hardworking. They're hard workers. They're just like us. They have issues. They have their own emotions. They're just human beings. But if you don't get people to work together, government cannot legislate love. Government cannot put a law that says you're a Filipino, you have to love a black guy. Love a black guy, you have to love a Filipino. Government, we have to do it ourselves. We have to work together and we do what we can do to bring each other together. Where I'll start with a quota system. If there is a pool of 100 people there, 100 people that the Human Resources Department had put on the desk, I want to see 20%, I want to see at least 40% of minorities on that list. Whether they're Vietnamese, Filipinos, from Congo, from Nigeria, from Ghana, from El Salvador, from Chile, from Mexico, I want to see indigenous people. I want to see people that other than white on that list. That has to be at least 40-50% or split it in half. Then some people say, well, I've got questions asked as, well, you think just because minorities, we're not hiring minorities, maybe they're not qualified. Well, I'm not racist. I'm not racist. I work with whites that are not qualified. I work with whites who are there because their cousin, their nephew, their mom and dad work there. I've been promoted, someone I trained on the concrete department that comes there and learned from us, and he became my boss. And I trained him. He didn't know anything. He didn't know what he was doing. That's what's happened to me with the city of Edmonton, and he's a white guy, you know. So, and they said, well, you have to, what if he qualified? Well, he's not qualified. He's not, the least experienced guy on my crew knows more than he does. But he became my boss. So, but he's a white guy. So if someone is a minority, then everyone got to ask, maybe they're not qualified, that's why they're not being hired. But if he's white, well, let's give him a chance. Why is that rhetoric? Why is that, the inconsistency is there. So why don't you have a different race and hire everyone, and then I believe we will move Edmonton forward, because two heads is better than one, and we came from different culture, different ethnicity, different understanding, and with that pull, wow, the city will work very well, trust me.
Yes, those are very good points, Malik, because it's high time that the city
yes. Is the second largest population in Edmonton, the Asian community.
Yes, and diversity is very important.
Very important, yeah.
And thinking out loud, the wife of Mayor Iverson
is Asian.
Is Asian, and yet this is still happening in our city.
It's happening in our city, yes.
On this note, let's take a very quick break, and we'll be right back, folks.
Thank you.
We're here with Mr. Malik Chukwudi, our Edmonton mayoral candidate. And Malik, just to backtrack a little bit,
yes.
I know a lot of Edmontonians, we discuss about the LRT, and they're not aware that Edmonton right now, we're $10 billion in
the hole. Yeah.
And
more than that.
What are you going to do when you become mayor as far as this problem is concerned, the $10 billion hole?
Well, they have to prioritize spending. Iverson doesn't know how to balance the pocketbook. He doesn't understand what that means. He doesn't even think of it. He spends like he was just someone in high school. He spends like a college student. He doesn't understand. He doesn't understand. If you have ever owned a business before, you worry about cash flow. You worry about revenue. You worry about paying your employers. You worry about payroll taxes. You worry about the overhead. You worry about paying things like advertisement and some costs that ordinary people don't even see. It's not easy to run a business. So he hasn't been there before. So it's easy for him to say, yes, let's keep going. Let's let the council vote on this like they did on the LRT without really thinking much of it. So I mean, the LRT is here to stay. I don't know if per se I will pursue that project. I have to look into it because we just don't have the money, unless we have to bring foreign investment into it. But I probably have to redesign it. I want it to go on the ground. I don't want it to go on the surface, because Edmonton is already packed as a city. If Anthony Hende gave a free drive to get to any place in the city. He went all around the city. Then you have Yalehead that add to that. You have White Mud that add to that. Then you have from the south going north. You have Calgary Trail, Gateway Boulevard, and you have 170th Street. So what is the essence of the LRT? Well, I could get to any place in half an hour. Why do I need to take a train that will, they say it's going to be faster. Faster to what? The faster to where? Our city is not designed like that. The city is not, from the way, if, like, for example, I went to United Arab Emirates. I flew to Dubai in 2019. And I got off the train, I got off the plane. I went straight to the LRT. And I didn't even know I just got off the plane. I took the escalator down and I'm at the LRT. And I took it to Abu Dhabi. And within 2 seconds we're in Abu Dhabi. We didn't go over top. But if a country, Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates, became a country in 1971, we've been a country for 150 something odd years. This is bad. So we don't have the finance to continue. Some people say, well, Trudeau government will give us money. They said they give us $400 million, which they announced about 3 weeks ago. But that money is coming from somewhere. Someone has to pay for that money. It's not free. There's no free lunch in a capitalist society. No one gives you anything for nothing. That is money that someone paid in taxes, and the government is giving it to somebody else. So, and it's not fair. But we as a city, why don't we? It's like there's an English saying, cut your coat according to your height. Your coat. You go to a tailor and you ask the tailor to measure and tailor a suit. It has to be according to your height. You cannot have a tailor a suit that is up here. So when it comes to finance, you have to tailor your finance according to your budget. You don't have to spend more than you can carry. And that is the problem we have with the LRT. That's the problem we had with infrastructure. The overpass that went from West Edmonton Mall to Misericordia, they said it will cost, the overpass is going to cost $8 million. But we don't have money to open the safe injection site. We don't seem to have the money to end homelessness. The court, the city of Seattle, the citizens, people that live in Seattle, had to take the government of Seattle, the governor, to court to end homelessness. They took him to court and they won. And the court forced the governor to end homelessness, and he ended homelessness in Seattle in 2 months. So without the court injunction, he wasn't going to do anything about it. Every year there's an election. Every cycle there's an election. Oh, we will end homelessness. Just like Iverson. We'll end homelessness. We'll fix it. We'll get funding. We'll build homes. You talk to business people, even people that are giving him money, that are supporting his election, they don't agree to building homes for homeless people. I've spoken to business people. When you talk to them about building homes for homeless people, they say, what? What are you building homes for them? Actually, one of my door knocking suggested that, you know what, Malik, you have a bleeding heart, but I have a different idea of how to deal with homeless people. I say, you know what, I'm running to become mayor. I'm open to any idea. What is your idea? What if I buy big buses? You load them up. You tell them there's a retreat in Yellowknife in the middle of winter. Take them there, drop them off. If you come back, any amount of money you need for your business, for your campaign, I'll give it to you. We don't need to build homes for them. They don't need homes. We're wasting taxpayers' money chasing this stupid stuff, and it's not going to help anybody. Move them away, move them somewhere remote. Just
So Malik,
yes.
Homelessness is just not these people not without homes, but there's a greater problem, right?
Yes.
And there's addiction, there's mental health, and so on and so forth. So how do you plan to attack this? What is the plan of attack if you become the mayor?
Homelessness requires political will. You know, I used to tell people when I go door knocking, they said, well, what are you going to do about homelessness? I said, well, we will start with, now they want to have a COVID passport. That's how stupid the government can be sometimes. But to get an ID card for homeless people, because the ones that has a mental problem need to go to the pharmacy. They need an ID, you need an address. He doesn't have an address. How's he going to have an address? They want everyone to have a COVID passport. How's the homeless going to have a COVID passport? Where are they going to go get a COVID passport? You think they're not able to get COVID? How are we going to get rid of this? We have fools in government. We have idiots who are leading us, who don't think. They lack common sense. Well, anyway, you don't blame them because, you know, their salaries are paid by taxpayers. So, but the problem is they make decisions for us, but they never ask us. Then we thought they're so smart. They're not. And they have bureaucrats and lobbyists who are behind them. So how are you going to get a passport for a homeless person? And you're talking about passport. But they need an ID. And many of them don't have an ID. They're very transient. They could come from Saskatchewan. They could come from Manitoba. They could come from anywhere. They're probably not from here, most of them. So, but how do you know who's where? You know, there's already organizations here, programs here to help homeless people, but most of those programs are not productive. Some of them are very duplicative. You know, why do you have 5, 6, 7 different programs for homeless people? You know, so Boy Street, Hope Mission, Homewood Trust. If you go to the website, they have everything that it would take to end homelessness. You read everything that was there, it's like, wow, this is professionally written. This is top of the line. This is so informative that there's every idea you want on the planet is there. But why isn't homeless done away with? It requires someone with political will. Well, the thing is, well, homeless people do not put money in the pockets of politicians. So politicians don't care. They're not useful to them. They only use them when it's time to run for election. Then they talk about ending homelessness. Well, I'll use data. You cannot solve anything without having information. Even with the COVID. To solve accidents on the road back in the 50s and 60s and 70s, they did a study by Volvo company and Mercedes. Why is it that when there's a head-on collision, someone is ejected from the vehicle because that ejection is either thrown out of the vehicle and the vehicle rolled over him, or he smashes through the windshield that will kill. But whatever, we need something to do. They came out with the seat belt based on the data that was collected. So one of the ways we deal with homelessness, know how many are they, where are they, you know, what are their problems. They're homeless, there's people that are homeless that don't have addiction problem. They don't. They're just poor. You know, they're just priced out of the market. For example, if a guy becomes homeless because he couldn't pay his rent and he got kicked out of the apartment, and he become homeless. He's not a skilled worker, just an ordinary labor. But you have companies looking for a skid steer operator, looking for a loader operator, looking for a flagger, looking for a zoom boom operator. They need someone with a ticket. The job is there, but the person doesn't have the certification and the qualification to do the job. Even when you have the ticket, they will say, I need a skid steer finish operator. You have to be on the skid steer more than 4 or 5 years to be able to understand how to finish the road using a skid steer. To backplate everything, you need that skill. But because this guy doesn't have that skill, he is just, you know, they go and register at temp agency. If there's a work somewhere in Nesque, how's he going to get there? The buses doesn't go to Nesque industrial site. So now he's homeless. There's work in SQ that will hire this guy, but he doesn't have a driver's license, doesn't have an ID, doesn't have a ticket to get there. So he stays homeless. But the government want to give him $2,000 CERB. You go on the government website, you register, you put your SIN number, and you can go to any of this, what do you call it? Payday loan. And yeah, once you have your information, you go there, the payday loan will give you that money. And I've seen that myself. So why is it that the government, some of these things could be solved, but the government will prefer that you stay disadvantaged most of your life? It's almost like they want people to be there, so every time they have to run for election, they have to use them, you know, to get the hearts and minds of people who are sympathetic to the situation, who is empathic to the situation. This guy running for office is kind. This guy running for office is caring. He cares about the homeless. But then he get in there for the next 4 years to the next election, nothing is done. There are homeless people that are homeless because they're priced out of the market. They don't have the skill set to get a job. And even if they do, they don't have the vehicle or means to get there. Secondly is mental health problem that is gone untreated. PTSD, schizophrenia problems, they're gone untreated. There are people who are disabled that you cannot visibly see. You know, they might have a hard of hearing and some other problems, and nobody knows, and they use drugs from the street to medicate themselves, and they're falling between the cracks, and the government doesn't know about them, you know, because they're busy screwing everybody else and thinking how to stay in power and enrich themselves and support their fellow lobbyists. Number 4, people from abusive homes. You know, they run away from Saskatchewan, from abusive husband, abusive boyfriend, they end up here, they don't know anybody, and they end up in the street. And sometimes you have pimps and so many people, you know, there who wants to, you know, say, you know, I could help you, could stay at my place, but if you go and sleep with John or sleep with Peter, he'll give you $150. You could keep the $50, I get 100, because I have to give you my place to stay, right? And you have sex workers. And to keep them working, these pimps buy them drugs and control them. And then when they get arrested, they throw into jail, they become a felon. Now you have a record. Makes your situation worse. You would never, because you go to get an apartment, they check your credit score and they run a background check on you. They say, no, we don't want you in a place. And this happened to a friend of mine 2 days ago. She's 55 years old, but you know, when she was young, she had years of being on the street, being a sex worker and crime. And if you know, a fella that owns a place I know by West End, and I recommended her to go see that my buddy that will rent her the basement. And my buddy Ron did a background check and called me and said, no, I don't want to rent her my place to her because of her past. So, and it was heartbroken, and now I got to find other places people, you know, that could take her, because now she's no longer young, she's now mid-50s. I mean, you know, she's not going to stand in the street corner or sell herself. But this is an older woman, she couldn't find a place, but something she did when she's young is still keeping her down in a country like Canada. Come on. And we go overseas when we want to bring democracy and help people in Africa and Venezuela and all these places. And we have our own poor here and we can't take care of them. It's unfortunate. And also, those that have mental problems, they will go to the ones that have chronic homeless problem. You can't solve all of them. And many of them don't want to be in a home. You know, but we're gonna devise a place where, like, we have old folks' homes that they could stay there permanently. They will never be a contributing member of the society. They will never like pay taxes or anything because of their health issues. But we need to take care of them as well, give them a place to stay, but that place needs to be monitored and supervised.
Malik, there are moves to make River Valley as part of a national.
Yes, that's
park.
beautiful. That's beautiful.
And
but the national park. So he came up with that idea, which is dumb as a rock. I don't know why he came up with that idea. That's why. It means, you know, being a federal MP, he didn't learn anything. And I don't think he will ever learn anything. I don't think he's quality. People say he's kind, he's caring. Whenever I talk to people, I go door knocking, all I hear is that he is kind, he's caring. Maybe he is. I mean, I've met him. I spoke to him the last forum, you know, me and him, he came over and spoke to me. And he's soft-spoken, seemed really, he seemed like a caring person. Seemed like a person you could sit, like your next door neighbor, you know, so some guy you could sit down and have a beer. But each and every one of us love our mom and dad. If someone asks me today, would you want your dad, who I love and care so much, to be the mayor of Edmonton? Oh, hell no. I don't want my dad being the mayor of Edmonton because I don't think he's qualified. But is he a nice guy? Oh, of course he's a nice guy. My dad is he's introverted. You know, you could live with him for 100 years. You know, it's very quiet. Good morning, how are you? He goes about he doesn't like to get in people's business. He keeps to himself, very clean, shaves, like to look good with his tie every morning. He was a school principal, you know. And but he's a nice guy, but does he have the qualification and what the experience to be a mayor? No. So the same thing with Sohi, just because he's nice spoken. But no, to be a mayor, to lead anywhere, require more than just being a nice guy. I don't want someone to just be a nice guy. I want someone to know his job and be able to understand the business sector, the human sector, and the revenue sector, you know? And also climate change. You can't just be a nice guy and just want to give up the River Valley to become a national park. No, the River Valley will bring a lot of jobs if you developed it nicely. You know, bring a lot of jobs here, will bring a lot of revenue to Edmonton. This River Valley belongs to us. The people that live here, work here, should be able to enjoy the River Valley. On a weekend, a long weekend, take your kids in the good weather, go for a walk, to take your dog and family and go hang out there. You know, you should have a cafe, you should have maybe a lodge, you know, where people from Japan and tourists could come and stay, and very beautiful, quiet, serene, could relax there in the patio, enjoy the serenity, enjoy hanging out there. But to become a federal park, no, it will not help us in any form or shape. Because the federal government could decide and says, no, within this period to this period, we don't want anybody going there. And if you have to go there, there's a gate, a pass, or security. You have to get the pass. You have to get what, you know, go online and get whatever you pay. The money goes to the federal government. The money, the revenues doesn't come to Edmonton. I want the revenues to come to Edmonton. I don't want to rob Peter to pay Paul. I want the revenues to stay here. So for Sohi to make such a statement, I think is indicative for someone that really want to be a mayor of Edmonton, and I don't even want to talk about some of the issues and some of the things he did when he was a federal MP that led to financial problems for Alberta, you know, and decimate the oil and gas industry and pipeline. But people say, well, the clean environment. We'll talk about climate change pretty soon here. Then we could go in detail in those aspects.
Yes, so you just mentioned climate change. How important and what steps are you going to take if you are elected as mayor of the city of Edmonton as far as climate change is concerned?
Climate change is important. Just like everything else, like politicians want to make it a political issue. Like abortion is a political issue. Climate change a political issue. Gun rights a political issue. I went on door knocking and I seen a bunch of people sitting in the park, and I went over there to give them my flyers. One of the guys sitting there said, I read the article they ran on you on 85 magazine. I said yes. He said, what do you think about abortion? I said, well, let the women sitting here answer that. Well, ma'am, what do you think about abortion? She says, well, I think women should make that decision. I said, women should make a decision on abortion. What you think, what I think don't mean nothing, you know? All it comes down to is the human right. Me as a man, I don't want anyone to restrict my position or tell me, oh, as a man, you shouldn't marry that woman, she's not too tall for you. Oh, that woman is not too short for you. No, I don't want anybody, I don't want the government telling me what to do with my body, okay? And I am 110% against abortion, make no mistake about it. But I am not a crazy person. I'm a human being. The woman could have been raped by an uncle, a friend, a buddy. It could have gone way wrong. It could be someone she met on a date, they had sex only one time and she got pregnant. She didn't hardly know the guy. Or, you know, they started knowing the person and the guy decided, oh, you pregnant? Yeah, I'm pregnant with your child. Well, I don't want the child. And the guy said, for that reason, I'm out of this relationship. And the baby is inside the lady, and the lady, she may not even have a job to support that child. Which, if that child is born, is going to create a problem not only for her mother, for the society. Who would take care of her? She might not have the means. People say put her in a foster home. That's a good idea. But I am not going to bend a woman's arm and force her and say, if you have an abortion, I throw you in jail. If you do this, I do this. No. We need education to help with this. Everything doesn't have to be yes or no. If you cross this line, you go over here, like in Texas. You cross this line, I hit you in the head with a spoon. No, you have to reason, have to have a forum, have a program that help these women. Once you know you are pregnant, you can't keep the child, go there, meet with them, and they might get to a point in the program, you say, you know what? Because of this program, I'll keep this child. I am a living witness. When I met my significant other, we got pregnant. And she came to my home. She says, she's crying. She says, I'm pregnant. I started crying. She said, oh, I know you hate this idea that I'm pregnant. I said, no, I'm crying because I'm emotional. I'm happy. I was so happy that I didn't know what to do. I cried. You know, she says, okay, I thought you were going to kick me out. I said, no. I've been wanting to have a child all my life. My son, Christopher, wouldn't be here today if her mom said, I'm going to have an abortion. I was on my knees begging her not to have an abortion. My son wouldn't be here today if I didn't talk her out of that. And who knows the circumstances a woman might find herself. The same thing with my significant other. You know, at the time, she didn't have the financial wherewithal to raise that child on her own. So she came and told me, I'm pregnant with your child, but I'm going to get rid of it because I can't afford it. So I begged her to keep the child, and I stepped up to the plate. I'm against it. But climate change, to what we're saying, is all politicized. Climate change affects all of us. You know, it affects all of us. Whether, I don't care if you're on the left or right, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, whether you're conservative or liberal, whether you're NDP, I don't care. These guys don't give a damn about climate change. Politicians, bureaucrats don't give a damn about climate change. If you're on the left, you have environmentalists who are giving money to the liberal government and say, hey, you guys have to keep saying this to save the planet. It's so stupid for us humans to think we could save the planet. The planet will save itself. And if human beings is a problem, the planet will get rid of us. Ask those prehistorical animals. They're bigger than us. They're stronger than us. The planet decided, I don't need you guys anymore. And you guys are gone. You guys are history.
That's the truth.
Yes. And if the climate is pissed off enough with humans, we'll be gone too. So it's you know, for us to say we save the planet, but you know what? All jokes aside, we have to do what we could do to save the planet. And you have guys who are conservatives. Each time climate change is mentioned, they run and hide. I said, why are you guys hiding? What is wrong with clean tech? What is wrong with funding universities and scientists to help to solve this problem? We have companies like ExxonMobil, Syncrude, Weatherford, Halliburton, Schlumberger, Shell, BP. They make billions and billions of dollars. They could invest in education. They could invest in technology.
And Malik, isn't it that we already have carbon capture? These companies have already introduced carbon capture.
They're not serious about it. There's two companies that knows what they're doing in carbon capture, and they're not in Canada, they're in Norway. If we have to learn anything, we should go to Norway and learn something. They capture the carbon, and the same way we drill oil, they put the carbon on the ground. But they do it under the seabed. From here, if there's a sea, millions and millions of miles away, they drill from here to there and they store that carbon underneath. Yeah, there's two companies that they do it through cement filtration and drilling as well. There's two technology that you use to capture and store it, but we're not doing it. If any company here in Canada is saying they're doing it, they're just lying. Yeah.
And Malik, at this point, I'll give you the floor and talk directly to the people of Edmonton as to what you want to do, what you want to change, and how you can change Edmonton towards the future.
In council, I am a kind of guy who don't, the political party where you're leaning doesn't really mean much to me, you know. If you Google what it means to be a liberal, it's not a bad idea to be a liberal. If you Google what it means to be a conservative, it's not a bad idea. We are conservatives every day. You wake up, you know, every time you leave your home, you plan, you budget. I'm going to put gas in my car. My kid's going to this school. My kid's going to that school. I'm going to sell this car. I'm going to buy a better car. You make decisions. That's a conservative way. Conserve is to keep back. Fiscal responsibility. But what happens is you have extreme people in every of this political party ideology. Just like in every race, whether black or white or Asian, whatever, you have the good and the bad and the ugly. Some people say, oh, black people are prone to crime, this and that. No. In every race, you have the good and bad and ugly. In every political party, you have the good and bad and the ugly. So I'll try to build a consensus in the council, because you should be able to walk, you know, across aisle and shake hands. You know, you don't have all the answers. And sometimes you have to listen to the other side to speak as well, if you're to govern. Otherwise, you polarize the place.